Revenge films.
My name was Jessica. It's been just over a year since I got married to my husband, Michael. I'm in my early 20s and Michael is 30 years old. From the very first time that I met Michael's parents, Michael's mother glared at me as though to ask who I was and where I came from, and I could easily assume that she must not like me. Before I got married, I was working full-time at a company, but my husband said that he wanted me to wait at home and have a warm, home-cooked meal for him when he came back from work. So I resigned when I got married. For the first couple of months, everything was peaceful. I would wake up early and have breakfast with my husband, and then during the afternoon, I would finish up all the chores around the house. Just before the evening, I would start to get dinner prepared and wait for Michael to come home from work. There wasn't anything special about every day, but I was happy with my life with my husband. However, around the time of year had passed since we got married, my mother-in-law started coming over for lunch every day because she lived nearby. And then on top of that, she would say to me, "Your mother-in-law is here at lunchtime, so you should be offering lunch to me at the very least. Where are your manners? Seriously, you're such a thoughtless woman." And she practically demanded me to make lunch for her. "I'm very sorry, I'll prepare it straight away." And so, I brought out what I had already prepared for lunch for myself to my mother-in-law instead. But after taking one bite, she said, "My goodness, how awful does this taste?" "What? What? Did you not hear me? I just said that your cooking is unbelievably awful. How can I eat this?" When my mother-in-law said that, I also tried the food, but it was the exact same as what I usually make, and I couldn't understand why she thought it tasted awful, but I was shocked. However, my mother-in-law would continue to come over for lunch day after day and demand that I feed her lunch. Even though she was the one that asked for lunch, no matter what I served her, she would complain that it tasted disgusting. And when she threw the entire cooking pot into the sink, I was completely stunned. Every single time my mother-in-law would come over, she told me that there was too much seasoning, that I didn't know how to cut vegetables, or that she couldn't taste anything. She would only complain, and then at the end she would say, "I can't believe my son has such a wife that can't even cook a decent meal. I feel so sorry for him. I'm going to beat you into shape." And would yell at me. I grew up in a single mother household, and my mother taught me how to cook from when I was a young age. I didn't mean to brag, but I did think that I was pretty good at cooking. The first time my husband tried my cooking, he was also super happy about it.
"Jessica, you're so good at cooking! This is the first time I've ever eaten anything this delicious!"
"You're exaggerating, but I'm really happy to hear you say that it's delicious. Thanks, Michael." Ever since the first time I cooked for him, Michael would ask me to cook him something after every single date. That's how much he loved my cooking. However, as for his mother, she would always take one bite and then complain about it, almost like it was a template. So I don't think that it had anything to do with the flavors. I was honestly discouraged to think that she was bullying her daughter-in-law like this, but I thought that if I tried to go against her, it would only get worse, so I tried to ignore her every time. But then, one day, I served the pickles that my mom had homemade for my mother-in-law. But she said, "Oh goodness, what the heck is this? It tastes like trash. Is it rotten? And you served me this?" As she said that, she threw the entire Tupperware into the trash can. "Hey, what are you doing? Even if you are my mother-in-law, I can't forgive you for that. Why would you throw it in the trash?" "What? Are you trying to tell me that you have some complaint against me?" "Those were pickles that my mother had homemade, and they're my favorite food." "Oh dear, no wonder why your cooking tastes so horrible. It's because your mother is like this as well. It all makes sense now." When she said that, I decided that I was going to get back at her. And that's when I came up with the plan to really serve my mother-in-law some food that tasted disgusting. As usual, my mother-in-law came over around lunchtime, and the first thing she did was go into the kitchen and started checking my food. But then, she really did scrunch up her face, and she froze on the spot. "Hey, Jessica, the stew that you made, don't you think it tastes funny?" When she said that to me, I nonchalantly replied, "I purposely made it like that." And the next day, the day after that, she didn't back down, and she still came over. But regardless of what she said to me, my only response was to say, "I purposely made it like that." And I continued to pretend like I was cooking these dishes specifically like this for her. Well, even though I was giving her normal dishes and she complained to me that much saying awful things about me and my cooking, my mother-in-law seemed genuinely shocked when I actually served her disgusting food. But that's no surprise. Without even taste testing anything, I was just throwing in all kinds of random ingredients and seasoning, so there was no way that I was going to be making anything edible. Usually, while eating my food, she would just trash my cooking, and on the worst days, she would even trash my personality. But because the food was actually disgusting, she wouldn't even pick up her chopsticks to eat, which meant she couldn't complain about it. And then my mother-in-law started coming over, but looked like she didn't want to eat any food, but I continued to offer it to her. Here you go! Here's some lunch for you, ma'am! I made a lot for you today, so please do eat to your heart's content. I would say that and serve her a full plate for her, but because she knew that it was going to taste awful, she didn't even want to lift her chopsticks to the plate. But she also wanted to complain to me at the same time and harass me, so she was stuck in that in between. But because it tasted so awful, perhaps she finally stopped wanting to come over for lunch anymore. And perhaps, because I was also starting to serve her truly terrible tasting food, my mother-in-law eventually ended up going straight to Michael and tried to complain to him that I didn't know how to cook and I wasn't fit to be his wife. However, Michael knew better than anybody that my cooking was delicious, so the moment that he heard that, he knew that something was wrong. If anything, when he found out that his mother was coming over every single day and then harassing me that I didn't know how to cook, he was furious.
Why are you even coming over to eat lunch at my house? You better stop harassing your daughter-in-law, and you better pay back all of the food expenses that you've eaten until now. Thanks to you, do you have any idea how much our food expenses have been wasted?
Apparently, he didn't hold back against her. On top of that, when he found out that his mother was barging into her house every single day around lunch, and she was not only verbally but also physically trashing my food, he was devastated. My husband felt so bad that he got down on his knees to apologize to me.
Jessica, I really am sorry. I really do think that your cooking is the most delicious in the whole entire universe. There's no way that it would ever taste bad.
That's what he said to me, and I felt bad that he was apologizing so much. So I decided to tell my husband everything from start to finish. When I did, he was cracking up.
I see. So you were just trying to give my mother a taste of her own words.
I did end up wasting some food and ingredients. I feel really bad about that, but...
I really am sorry that I made you suffer because of my mom. I'll make sure that I talk to her about it so it never happens again.
After he said that, Michael picked up the phone straight away and he called his dad and told him everything that his mother had been doing. Michael's father was still working full-time at a company, and apparently he never imagined that during the daytime, his wife was barging into his daughter-in-law's house and doing such a thing. And so one day, he brought his wife and came to apologize to me in person.
How dare you say that Jessica's cooking was disgusting! There must be something wrong with your tongue! Do you need to get it checked, even though her cooking is 100 times more delicious than yours? What are you saying?
My mother-in-law seemed shocked that her husband yelled at her like this, and she stood there in silence. But he wasn't lying. That was in fact the case. My mother-in-law always said that my cooking was disgusting, and then she would end up cooking herself in my kitchen. But there was no balance between any of the flavors, and it didn't taste good at all. And so, anytime my mother-in-law came over to cook at my house, every single time I would adjust the flavors afterwards before I served it to my husband for dinner. As for why my father-in-law knew about my cooking and could compare it to his wife's, it's because pretty soon after Michael and I got married, his mother got sick and she wasn't able to cook for some time. So for a couple of days, I was delivering homemade meals to Michael's parents. And at that time, he was highly complimentary of my cooking.
Jessica, you really are an amazing cook. I had heard from my son how delicious your food was, but I was still shocked at how great everything tasted. At this rate, I wish that I could eat it every single day. And plus, they're all well-balanced meals and still healthy.
My mother taught me all kinds of recipes when I was younger. My mom is a registered dietitian, so she knows what's best.
I see. It all makes sense. My son is a lucky man that he was able to marry a woman like you who's so good at cooking. Thank you for always looking after him, for keeping his health in mind like this.
Yes, sir. With that experience in the past, my father-in-law also knew that I was a good cook and that I would never make anything that didn't taste good. Perhaps my mother-in-law thought that by saying that I don't know how to cook, she would be able to tell her son to get a divorce from a wife that couldn't even make a proper meal. But instead, everybody was turning on her and telling her that she didn't know how to cook and she was completely silenced. She was a shell of a human standing there. Both my husband and his father were furious with her.
Who do you think you are? Complaining about Jessica's cooking when you don't even know how to cook yourself! If anything, you should go and learn a thing or two from her. All these years, I've had to tolerate your terrible cooking. That's right! Even I knew that your cooking was terrible, and me and Dad, we've both been tolerating it because you're my mom! And without even realizing that your own cooking is disgusting, you were trying to come after Jessica! There must be something wrong with you! I don't want to eat your cooking for the rest of my life! That's true. I don't want to be together with a woman like this, who can't cook, and yet is going to be so awful to somebody else about it! So get out!
Wait! I was wrong! I will never say that Jessica's cooking is disgusting ever again! So please forgive me! After being yelled from all directions like this, Michael's mother was sobbing as she came to apologize to me. After that, she was somehow able to gain her husband's pity and avoid a divorce. But she was banned from coming over to my house for lunch anymore. And then, every single day, her husband was complaining to her that her cooking was disgusting, and I heard that she is hanging by a thread nowadays.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.